during this mission, and he actually beat the final boss. Why the fuck is he still in school? Let's put him out in the field now. Like, let's speed up his graduation process or whatever, some shit. Like,
you gotta love to be gone back yet. Love is a 10, don't you grab it. Welcome to episode 4 of the Rambling Ranting Review Hour. I am here with my buddy Goro.
Hey, what's up?
And we are here to talk about My Hero Academia Season 4. Technically, it's 2 episodes away, but I think it's close enough that we could pretty much talk about most of the season and cover most of the material. So let's get into it. So, what do you think so far of the King of Shonen, the international bad boy, My Hero Academia Season 4?
Pretty good. I'd say is it the school festival? Is that what we call it?
No. Well, technically, remember, the beginning of it was the what you call it? The
Yakuza Arc?
Yeah, the Yakuza Arc. That was the beginning of season.
But I'm talking about the most latest content.
Yes, the most recent content. I mean, My Hero arcs tend to be a lot shorter than most shonen anime. I don't know if that's because Horikoshi likes shorter arcs or if he just has difficulty in constructing long arcs. But generally, like, most of the seasons have, like, several arcs. Like, season 2 had the sports festival, it had the Stain arc, and it also had the licensing tests. While this one has just mainly 3 arcs. It's going to have the Hisekai arc and then the school festival arc, which we just saw.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I wanted to call it. I wasn't sure what the exact term was, but the school festival arc, I think, is actually way better than the Yakuza arc.
Oh, controversial statement. Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh, big bad boy. So let's talk about why do you not like the Hisekai arc? Why do you hate small little lolly girls who need to be saved from their evil bad boy awful parents figures?
I mean, like, the little girl seemed innocent enough, and then, like, realizing she has a, cool superpower, a cool super quirk at the end of it was kind of neat. But the Yakuza boss, he didn't feel, like, very threatening at all.
What? All right, we need to deep dive into this. What about Shisaki did not work for you? Because I think he was... What about him did not feel threatening? I mean, you said it yourself. He basically is a much better version of Shigaraki's power, right?
Yeah, technically speaking. Maybe it's his flunkies that don't feel like as threatening. Like, I feel like this should be a more longer drawn out arc.
This was like the longest arc in the entire series so far.
Yeah, and that's really, like, I feel like I have this instinct he's very weak when it comes to these long arcs, right? To these long plot threads.
Interesting. Well, I in some ways I agree with you. I think there are some weaknesses to this arc, but I don't know if I necessarily agree with the ones you're saying right now. Let's dig a little deeper here. What about this arc is, like, not working for you? Because, I mean, there's a lot of strong stuff. There's the very hard emotional turmoil of Deku learning that he wasn't the original choice, that he's interning with the sidekick, and Sir Night-Eye is, like, giving him his worst fear, that this guy, Mirio, should have been the one to inherit All for One. If it was my choice, he should have been the one to be the successor. And worse than that, Mirio actually looks like he might have been worthy, or he proves that he is kind of worthy. He's this strong Tintin guy who has the perseverance and sense of humor, and he's likable. He's this cheerful, weird, quirky guy who's in many ways more similar to All Might in the fact that he's like kind of corny, but he's got the soul of a hero. So, what about all these strong elements of emotional drama is not working for you?
Well, I do like Mario, or what's his superhero?
Lumillion?
Lemillion. Lemillion. I like Lemillion a lot. Like when he loses his power, he doesn't even he doesn't necessarily flinch. He just keeps on going.
Although
just
I will say
going,
the anime kind of did him dirty in that moment where they just had like a lazy clip show of him fighting. I was like, all right, now Bones is gonna do a super animated sequence to show how cool he is. Because basically that's the My Hero equivalent of like the scene where Whitebeard dies, and then it's like, in that day he took 75 bullets and 85 stab wounds and blah 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 and fruit powers, and oh my god, he was completely devastated and destroyed, but there was not one scar on his back. It's like this ultimate thing. And My Hero Academia doesn't do like third person narrator that often. Usually it's like Deku who narrates the story, and doesn't happen very often. But in this case, it was like such a significant time that they used the third person narrator to let us know that he fought on for 15 minutes. 15 minutes without his power, and he still held his own. He still held his own. Good old Togeda, good old Invisible Boy. How
not,
could you not
Invisible Boy.
Well, Permeation Boy. He permeated through the different layers.
Right.
So what about Invisible Boy did not work for you?
I mean, his character arc was fine. It was just the build-up didn't feel like, man. I'm trying to
come on. I'm gonna get those big boy words out of you one way or another.
It could have been the emotion behind Deku, like feeling like enraged towards this guy, didn't feel quite genuine enough.
What?
It's like I feel like this guy is supposed to be like a little bit more hyped up as a badass supervillain. Like, yes, he kills one of the League of Villain guys. Yes, yes, he has this deep dark secret of using his daughter to make.
Well, it's technically not his daughter, but his presumed daughter.
Right, but I would like to have seen him like do some kind of one up against the Hero Society, like the Heroes League, whatever they're called. Like I would have liked it, so it felt like he was a more threatening organization.
What about him wasn't well? I mean, half the two things in this arc. I mean, there are a lot of things in this arc, but like the big thing was that like the Yakuza in the My Hero Academia world are struggling. They're not doing so hot. They're on the outs, but Chisaki is.
But they're still besting the League of Villains,
and the League of Villains is even worse than the Yakuza. Like the point of that was that not only does Deku learn more about All for One, more about being a hero, but he also Shigaraki gets to learn about leadership because he's pushed against Chisaki, and Chisaki's a great foil for Shigaraki because Chisaki is like Shigaraki, but he's better at everything that he does. He is the better mentor. He has a better organization. He has better loyalty from his people. Shigaraki has no plan. And you know what? Why shouldn't Shigaraki despise his guts? He's like the cool guy from college, the little douchey guy who's like showing off all his photos, and he should feel absolutely complete disdain for him. It just makes sense. But Chisaki and his power set is even like a better version of Shigaraki. He's got the full FMA power set. So how does he not feel like an intimidating enough threat or more important enough to really hold your interest? What is not working about the great Chisaki overhaul?
Well, I guess if you put it that way, it is a little more appealing. It's kind of like you kind of expect like the heroes to make it out like a-okay at the end of this, right? Like at the end of this arc, like nothing serious. The Yakuza, like even from the very beginning, couldn't really do anything against the heroes.
But they still bloody them up. You know, poor Sun Eater gets brutalized. Little Red Riot, Kirishima gets brutalized and beaten up horribly. It's they get, and of course Sir Night Eye. Although that's not the most emotional death because we're not super attached to Sir Night Eye, but
yeah, we're more attached to Lemillion than Night Eye.
I will. All right, so I'll throw you a few bones here, and maybe this will help articulate your thoughts. I
Okay.
thought one problem with this arc is that it felt very derivative in terms of structures, the Choji or the Sasuke retrieval arc from Naruto.
Does it feel like that?
Yeah, completely. Because the whole structure of the arc is, we've got to go get Sasuke. I'm the bad guy. I'm going to stay back and fight the good guys. You all go ahead. And then it keeps on going up until we get to the point where Naruto and Sasuke face off. Well, in the way it works in this arc is you have, various hero teams. They face off against the goons. And then they're like, you should go on ahead. We'll catch up. And it's the exact same thing up until Deku is forced to face Overhaul mostly alone.
Right. And like and that fight where Deku is just like plowing through, like he's just running past all the lesser heroes. Like why does I guess I don't understand why he has like such an emotional like build up to wanting to fight Overhaul that badly. Like maybe he could have fought like some of the lesser villains. Like why does he have to be the one like at the very end to...
Well, one, because he's the fucking main character and it's a fucking shonen manga. You know, why does Luffy have to fight Rob Lucci?
Yeah, but
they didn't have anything. Lucci was just doing his fucking job.
Yeah, but he's doing his like provisional license thing, right? It's like the second internship kind of thing. Why is the intern like going into the front lines of the final battle, the final boss? Like why are the upper like why are the upper heroes letting him like skip past like all this, mediocre tasks that he has to do in order to climb up the ranks?
Because he's kind of lucky, and that's how it's structured. I mean, I will say the structure is kind of derivative in terms of like having different sets of heroes being left behind, and then they go forward. That I thought was like a little bit derivative, and I thought some of the I like the Sun Eater fight just because I think Sun Eater is one of the more creative power sets that we've seen in My Hero. Mm-hmm. It's so funny. Like, you see all these videos. Oh, my God. Quirks explain. Quirks are so great. And blah. It's like, bitch, these are, like, just very basic superpowers that are, like, taken from other places. Like, Jesus Christ. Oda has the worst power system of all time. But he always manages to come up with unique things. And you're, like, all like, oh, how does Invisible Girl work? Let's this quirk explained. And most of them are like, not that interesting. They're, like, kind of, like, ideas that you feel like Togashi had, but never really employed. I'm Lock Rock. I'm gonna lock things in place. Whoa. But Sun Eater actually has like a fun superpower that you feel like can be used. It's a really great like, imagining super. Exactly, because you don't necessarily know what he's going to do. And there's also the fantasy of like, oh, I'm going to have all kinds of food on me. So I'm going to have beef so I can have oxtails, or I can horse meat so I can run like a centaur, or octopus so I have tentacles. And it's just fun and creative. I think it's one of the more fun power sets that we've seen in the series.
Yeah, like that was a pretty nice fight, and I would have liked to see Deku like be more on that guy's level.
But on the other hand,
on the totem pole of like who gets to fight the main boss of the Yakuza, you know, because like you think about it, he's still supposed to be learning as a hero, but he just like. He basically proved he's a professional hero at the very end of it. Like, why don't they just speed up his graduation process after this battle with the main Yakuza boss? Like, at this point, like, what the fuck point is the school right now? Like, you know, what's the point of learning in the school? Like, can't they just like say, oh, Deku really proved himself, you know, during this mission, and he actually beat the final boss. Why the fuck is he still in school? Let's put him out in the field now. Like, let's speed up his graduation process or whatever, some shit. Like,
So that's your main problem, is that you don't like the idea that Deku is like able to. Well, here's a question though. Why do you have a problem with that here versus like when he fought Stain and beats up Stain?
That was like purely coincidence. Like they were thinking about calling for help from other like more professional, stronger heroes, and I think they did. But in the meantime, they still had to fight him off.
So your main issue is that you hated the idea that like Deku kind of like had Luffy status, even though it's been shown that like the My Hero Academia doesn't work by like One Piece rules, where there's like a little bit more of an organization and bureaucracy and hierarchy to being a hero, versus say Luffy, who could just beat up the main bad guy whenever he feels like it. And you feel like there should be some better repercussions for him, like taking out the bad guy and going Super Saiyan. And you could say that like Deku was only able to beat him because he was able to use the convenient power up of Eri, which still kind of is a little bit of a lazy writing technique, where as opposed to like using his new shoot style, he just has to like, I'm just going to use my power 100% and break my body, but it doesn't matter because I have this magical cheat device strapped towards me.
That did seem like that was like a random, you know, with the power of friendship of this little girl, I can beat this guy, kind of thing. Which is kind of similar to it kind of, in a way, it kind of feels similar to like the muscle guy fight, where he's like,
it's kind of like a reverse version of the only you gender swap the little kid.
Yeah, you know, he's getting his body battered and destroyed, for the sake of this little boy, and now he's getting his body like battered and destroyed, and then healed again, saving this little girl.
But
it's really hard for me to articulate why I don't like this arc, but I think like I want to see Deku fail more, I guess. Like it seems like he's able to succeed very easily.
Well, but he had to destroy his body and watch Lemillion lose his power, and his mentor for 2 seconds got murdered brutally. Who was, you know, All Might's sidekick.
I want to see, like, Deku has pretty much won every single one of his fights so far. I want to see moments where maybe he gets over confident. Where he's rushing into battle, and his mentors are like, "Wait, Deku, please hold on, wait a minute." And he's like, "I'm gonna take care of this guy." And I think maybe that would have been a better story to tell against Overhaul. And then Deku, in the first encounter, like small encounter with Overhaul, he loses, and then one of the other mentor heroes cleans up after him.
So basically, what you wanted was something similar to like the crocodile fight, where like Luffy like kind of like butts his head up against Crocodile several times, and eventually figures out a way to win after losing like 2 or 3 times.
Not even that, but just kind of like something to like some kind of like character development with Deku.
But remember, the big thing of why rescuing Eri was so important to him is because they had that big child abuser moment where they ran into her in the streets, and he felt like he should have let her go, but he ultimately listened to his little senpai, Lumillion Mirio, and ultimately he let the poor little girl go back to a child abuser. So he feels eternally guilty that his hero instinct would be that we should just rescue her then and now, and if according to what he thought was right, that would have solved all their problems and would have potentially shown that he has the path to becoming a great hero, yada yada, etc., etc.
Yeah, but
and that's him sort of redeeming it, saying, "I left you behind, but now I'm not going to follow social service practices. I'm going to plus ultra and save you from your horrible abuser."
So that's like, it's basically like Deku's. That's basically saying like, Deku, like, follow your instincts. That's like the lesson he has to learn from this arc, right? But again, like in a similar kind of way, that's very similar to the story that's told with when he fights the muscle guy to protect that little kid. He's like, "Oh, follow your instincts, Deku, and protect this little kid from this muscle guy that's going to kill him." Like, I don't know. It felt like a little bit repetitive in terms of, character, like,
go on.
It didn't feel like a character growth moment for Deku at all, basically. It felt like kind of repetitive from a previous story arc.
In terms of him having to save another kid. But this time he's in a big hero operation, and he's working with heroes, and it's more like the real thing than anything he's ever been before.
Yeah, sure, it's a bigger hero operation, but it would have been nice if he like
been like
if he learned, if he took what he learned from that previous experience with the muscle guy and like,
well, he did. He used shoot style 2 times and then stopped using it because he got a Deus Ex Machina that allowed him to be a punchy boy again.
I think Deku's first instinct to try and protect the girl, when he first saw her, should have been more dramatic. Like, he should have been like, okay, like he should have started to get like physical with Overhaul, and then Lemillion maybe stop him, like try and stop him like forcefully to and then I don't know, I just want to see like a more of a progression of character growth from one story arc to the next, like, because it feels like it's telling the same kind of story with the muscle dude.
And you feel like that was your main issue, that you just felt like it was too repetitive. But you had a much better, more charismatic villain. You had Chisaki with his cool overhaul aesthetic and his cool superpowers. And you didn't like it when he starts going into Monster Hall form and going into true super hyper mega shonen escalation.
At that point, I just kind of, I didn't feel as emotionally attached to that kind of fight, because it seems like Deku is going through the same, it's going through the same character story arc to me.
So, well, okay, this is an interesting question. Why does that not work for Deku when, Luffy punching the bad guy works for you? Like, why does it work for other shonen characters that's not working here? Because essentially, shonen storytelling is always the same formula. You know the bad guy's going to get punched in the face. You come to see the bad guy get punched in the face, and it's probably going to be the character who's on the front cover of most of the issues is going to be the guy who's going to punch the face. So why is it more satisfying in other many shonen stories and not here?
It may be because Luffy is a dumbass. he's like, Luffy is a stubborn dumbass that, cherishes his friends. He doesn't need to necessarily progress. But Deku is like one of the more smarter protagonists. Like, he analyzes things. Like he's very self-aware.
Go on. So you feel like because he's more self-aware, he should be a smarty pants and come up with a better solution versus that I'm going to be Mr. Punch Boy, I'm going to punch the shit out of him.
And the fact that he's also a student, like he's a rookie, and he has mentors all around him. Like, I think like it would be pretty good, like, storytelling to have him clash with his mentors a lot.
But he kind of does with like Night Eye, where he's like, I don't think you're worthy. I think you're a piece of shit. It should have been Lemillion. I don't think very highly of you.
But he's still a grade A student who doesn't really overstep his bounds at all. Like, I want there to be like.
But he's a good boy. He's a wholesome boy who does wholesome things. That's what happened with his appeal. Oh my God, he's so adorable, and he just wants to be a hero. Oh my God, we love him, and like that's antithesis of his character. And occasionally he breaks the rules, like he did by sneaking out during the great Camino raid arc with All Might fighting All for One. But most of the time he's like a little goody two-shoes, and that's half the appeal. He's very wholesome. He's a very wholesome character.
That was like hardly breaking the rules. That was like no repercussions whatsoever.
Hey. Aizawa, aka MHA Kakashi, gave them a very strong lecture saying that if it wasn't for the fact that like times are desperate now, they would all get expelled except for Bakugo and like one other person.
Right. Sure.
That was a very
it was a very stern talking to.
It was a very stern talking to.
With no consequences.
It was a very serious talk time. You didn't feel you didn't feel yourself get shiver with fear from that stern talking to?
No, but Deku is just like he's so neurotic anyway. He's just like, he's not really that much of a troublemaker. He's always going to try and play more by the rules, but he's also he has a lot of problems with self-doubt and trusting his instincts. So I think I don't know.
Was that the main issue? But like, what about other stuff? Did you like the little mini arc for Kirishima?
Kirishima was the guy who eats the stuff.
No, he's the Red Riot. He's the guy who was like teamed up with Fat Gum.
Oh, yeah, Kirishima is pretty boring actually. He's like,
You
I
know
don't
he's
know
like a
why
fan
people,
favorite. He's a fan favorite character, right?
I don't know why people care about him. He's like so boring. He's just like, I'm just gonna, he's like Metapod. Like
What
it's
about
like
his
the anime
unbreakable
Metapod.
form?
It's like, I'm gonna use my harden ability again. Harden even more, Metapod. No, you harden more, Metapod.
But what about his incredible backstory where he learned that he didn't feel so confident in himself, and then he had a whole depressing episode about not directing a scary guy away from girls and not saving from bullies?
I guess that's something. Um, I'm not sure though that it really. I mean, it did a little bit, but not not enough for me. Like I don't know why I'm supposed to care about this character at all. He he's just there. He has red hair. He's loud, and he has Metapod's ability. Like it's like one of the more boring abilities. I think his character would be. There needs to be more student deaths. Honestly, there needs to be more. There needs to be more like hero deaths, because it'd be really great if because his power is so dumb, like he just dies like during one of these like intense battles. Like, oh my god, my hardened ability wasn't enough. Like I need to see more brutality against
That's kind of weird because like My Hero Academia isn't what I'd call a dark series. It has like occasionally dark moments, but it's
well,
not a dark.
maybe he could get like injured badly in a coma, and he'll miss like
But what about the
2
moment
weeks
where
of classes.
he gets punched really really hard and then he feels really bad because the superpower wasn't enough for super punching guy? No,
No.
no.
It's like in the super punching guy like complimented like, wow, you got so hard, I commend you. I commend you for getting so
Because the
hard.
lesson of that was fighting spirit. That ultimately in quirk superhero battles, that it's whose spirit outbeats the other one, and because of his low morale came up, it reinterpreted his horrible childhood experience of having low morale and low self-esteem. But then he did a much better job of getting hit really hard, so Fat Gum could charge up his super attack. They definitely did a lot better job of that in the anime than they did in the manga, because in the manga just like wasn't really apparent that like Fat Gum was charging up. He just like looked like he was about to punch, and then it just sort of like cut to him getting punched more, and then he's like, "Oh, now I'm gonna hit you." But you didn't like the Choji butterfly moment?
That felt like a cheaper version of the Choji butterfly moment. Choji butterfly had a lot more emotional appeal to it than Fat Gum, because like we barely even knew what Fat Gum was, and
But he's
there
Fat
was
Gum. Everyone loves Fat Gum. He's so happy and he eats stuff and he boinks and stuff. He's like the Blob, but he's like got this great character design. How could you not love Fat Gum?
it'd be great if the roles were reversed and Kurishima had the Fat Gum like spear power, and Fat Gum was just a defensive blob. That would have been slightly better, I think.
You wanted Kirishima to play a more proactive role.
Um, well, yeah, but because his power is like so boring anyway, I I think you either seriously injure him like and paralyze him or something, or you give him like that explosive moment, like a Choji moment, basically, because like his Kirishima's Choji moment was basically just getting really, really hard. And that's just boring. I hate that. It's like his power is so lame. Like, please do something like interesting to, you know, his character. Like punish him for having such a stupid weak power.
But it was good enough to get into UA. And what about his unbreakable form, where he gets even really, really hard?
That's just like Metapod using Harden like 5 times in a row. So it doesn't it's like doing the same thing over and over again. It's like there's no way.
But he looks cool and badass and scary.
From the other things that he does.
But it looks badass and scary. Why do you not love this incredible arc with all these superheroes? So was that your main issue though? Was just sort of you didn't like the you thought Deku didn't earn his like hero moment, and you thought it was like a little too easy for him to beat the bad guy, and you didn't like Overhaul as much as I thought you would?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's because also I took a little bit of a break in between episodes. It's like I wasn't able to have that same emotional connection when we first get introduced to Overhaul, and then the progression of the story.
And was the break really that like destroyed it? You think if you watch it all at once, you would have loved it much more?
In between, I don't know.
Because like you seem like there are things like you talk about it, but you still can't quite like articulate what about it made you feel like, I don't like this. This is dumb. This is stupid. Because what would you say are the weakest arcs overall of My Hero Academia? Like, what do you think are the strongest ones, and which one do you think are the weakest?
The strongest ones. One of the strongest ones I think was the very first story arc, where All Might is just like pounding the shit out of the Nomu thing. And then the sports festival. That was also a really good one too, where Deku and Tomura,
or no,
yeah.
Todoroki.
Todoroki, yeah. Where they're facing off. That was like really cool thing. And it was like a battle of
wills between the two of them. And then there's also the Stain arc. Well, maybe this is a better question. What is your least favorite My Hero Academia arc?
Least favorite?
It seems like this is up there in terms of like your least favorite arc.
Yeah, I'd say this is pretty close. This might be the weakest arc for me.
Because if you need a refresher, I'm going to like pull up all the... Before we move on to our discussion, I still want to probe this a little bit more. My Hero Academia arc list. So I'm going to like remind you of the arcs, and you're going to say like it or you didn't. So entrance exam arc, which is just the first thing of him getting into...
that was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quirk appreciation test. Now this is like really, really where they're doing the quirk test to see after getting into UA.
Yeah, that was really good.
Battle trial arc where he does the simulated battle against Bakugo.
That was really good because it was Deku sort of like showcasing his power to Bakugo. Deku didn't have a lot of confidence in himself, yet, but he was starting to grow more in terms of power.
Okay, okay. And so the next one, the USJ arc. What did you think of that one? That's the villain attack with the All Might and the Nomu.
That was really great. But All Might beating the shit out of the Nomu, that was like one of the best things in the anime.
UA Sports Festival arc. What do you think of that?
Um, I'd say the ending for that was fantastic. With
And
like the middle like tournaments moments of it, not so much.
okay, Hero Killer arc. What do you think of that one?
It was okay.
What? I thought you liked the Hero Killer arc. I thought you loved
Like,
Stain. They had some great animation.
yeah, it was great animation, and I liked I like how they got put in a situation where, you know, a believable situation where the students had to fight against Stain, but still try and call for help from the professional heroes.
And,
It was like kind of like a Zabuza kind of
yeah,
thing.
that is actually a pretty apt comparison. Okay, final exam arc where they fight against the pro heroes.
Oh, the fight against pro heroes.
Remember the practical exams where each one of them is pitted off against a pro hero in an exam, and then Deku and Bakugo fight against All Might, and a bunch of other heroes fight against other pro
Yeah,
heroes.
that was kind of repetitive. It was okay. Yeah,
Force training camp arc.
forced training camp arc. It's when they capture Bakugo at the
Yep.
end. Mm, I mean, it's pretty exciting when they got ambushed in the middle of it, and then they had to fight off League of Villain members. Like, it was a lot of UA members like first experience with combat, and it was starting to get a bit spooky because they actually killed. I think they killed a few of the teachers there, or like one or two of them.
Nah, they just like badly wounded them, and then one of them they stripped their powers. But I don't think I think most of them still survived. Okay, and then the hideout raid arc. Everyone loves the hideout raid arc.
Yeah, meeting the big bad villain that's All Might's arch nemesis. Like, it was a pretty good arc, and All Might doing his final smash, whatever, United States of Smash, however he phrased that, and then calling out the Deku like you're the last one. Like that had some good emotional beats, and then like the students, like, it felt believable that the students were like, they wanted to break the rules because Bakugo was out there. They wanted to save their friend, but they didn't want to, like, they also felt conflicted because they didn't want to interfere with the pro heroes because they felt that they were liabilities. So there are some interesting things story-wise with that arc.
And the provisional hero license arc.
Provisional hero license arc.
That's when they have the big school test to get their hero licenses. They fight the other schools.
Oh yeah. Uh, mm, yeah, no, that one was okay.
I thought you loved that one.
It it was fun. It was a fun arc. It feels like, though, they do a lot of these tournament arcs, kind of. But yeah, it was pretty fun.
You love exams, Mister. I love the Hunter exam. So it
Yeah,
seems
but
like
that was only one exam.
so it seems like the only arc you didn't really like was maybe you felt a little bit iffy about the forest training and the final exams arc, but most of the other ones you really liked.
Yeah, I thought some of the beginning stuff for My Hero Academia is like still some of the strongest stuff. Um, but as it's gone on, like it seems Deku has like sort of overcome his like lack of confidence more and more.
Well, he's more confident, but now it's like sort of like, how am I going to build up my reputation so I don't just completely rip and destroy my body?
Yeah, that too. That too. He's got to figure out how to control his power to the best of his ability. He's getting more and more calculated, more and more focused. Um, and that is interesting with Deku, like his progression, like physically as a hero. That to me is still pretty interesting, and I like that. I like that aspect with Deku because you know there are like lasting consequences with some of his battles where he fought Muscle Guy. He like destroyed his arms from that. Um, he can't do those super finger flicks anymore. So like the super duper finger flicks. Otherwise, he's gonna break his fingers. Uh, so he switched to using like the shoot style, which is interesting. I mean, he's realizing like the limitations of his own body to to handle this power, and that all that stuff is really great to see. Uh, so yeah, those are some of the strengths of My Hero Academia. Like uh, trying to work around your weaknesses as best you can, and I feel like Deku's character does that exceptionally well, but most other characters in this series is really it's really hard to it's really hard to empathize them like with them compared to Deku. Um,
Why? Because they don't have as interesting power sets, or you don't think that they're quite as unique as Deku, or you feel like because of the fact that they don't have an inherited power, they're less interesting to follow? Your thoughts?
yeah. Oh, it'd be like with Deku's powers, you see a good weakness to his powers. With other people's powers, like the only other characters we've seen weaknesses with is like Endeavor. He can like overheat his body. We've seen All Might. He's running out of strength. He had an old injury. And Todoroki, where he uses ice powers too much, he's going to freeze his body. If he uses firepower, he's going to overheat his
So
body.
I think we're starting to get somewhere. You like the characters where they have like limitations that they can do it, versus one character who just does one thing and it's kind of boring. And the only limitation they have is getting really hard just kind of sucks.
Yeah, like there's no disadvantage. There's no real disadvantage for him, like getting that kind of power up, I guess. Like the super hard power up, and it's a really boring power up, I guess, because of that. Maybe if some of his flesh, like maybe if it like paralyzed a piece of his body, uh, each time he did it or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. That would be more interesting to you if there was like some sort of like bigger consequence.
Does it seem like I'm being like kind of like a negative Nancy to
A
like?
little bit, and I don't know. I just wish you would be a little bit more articulate. Like
Uh,
I think the arc has like a lot of strong moments. I think the fact that like you see you see Deku a little bit more like. All right, so let me see. Let me go to my positives and negatives, and you can latch onto it, and then we're gonna move
Okay.
on to other things because we've been on this arc for a while.
I know.
I
Yeah.
think the fact that like there's ambiguity about his role as being the successor is great. I love the drama about Mirio Tagada and him wondering if he's actually worthy of inheriting All for One. I think Chisaki is a really interesting, fun villain, and he's a great foil for Shigaraki because he's just basically a better version of him. You could say that it got a little over the top where he becomes like an anime Final Fantasy villain towards the top. But at the same time, though, in the manga, it had a lot of great art. In the anime, they had some pretty decent animation, especially towards the end. You could say it's a little lazy that like Horikoshi keeps on introducing characters and devices that like let Deku, use 100 all for one, 100%, 100%. But you also got like some decent stuff with the League of Villains in terms of Shigaraki understanding about how to be a better villain and be a better form of leadership. And ultimately, there's that great scene where they're like, "Why should we do this?" And then he takes off his face mask for the first time outside of when Deku saw his face, and it says, "Because I believe in you, and I want to make a world better for all of us." And then they look at him and they're like, "We're gonna follow you to the graves of hell." Oh my god, that's great. Oh yeah, well, did you like seeing Twice and Togeda more in action? Everyone's favorite vampire girl.
It's okay. They just like stabbed a couple pro heroes and then left. Like, so they were both like clones from the very beginning, or
No, they were both real, but I think I'm pretty sure they were both real. They just made a clone of the compress guy to go steal the quirk bullets.
oh yeah, okay,
Because remember, it gets a little confusing because when the clone wakes up, it goes into gooey mud, and then Togeda's power is that like she transforms into someone, and then when she transforms back into herself, she's like a gooey mud person.
right, okay, yeah. Okay,
I also like the fact that this was kind of like a darker arc in terms of like killing off, introducing, but in the weaker terms, I think Mirio could have been a little bit more interesting in terms of because the question is like Deku's wondering is he really worthy, and then the fact that like Mirio, oh, he is just as good as you thought he was. He should have inherited All for One. I thought it would have been more interesting if there was some sort of character flaw that made Deku more worthy of All for One than he was.
yeah. Uh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that whole idea, like, why does Deku have All for One? Like, is there no conflict in Deku's mind, like especially after Lemillion loses his power?
Well,
Like,
remember, there's that one scene where Deku says, like, if I could give you my quirk, and then Lumillion says, no, don't do that. That would inconvenience you, and I don't want that. So there is a little bit of, there is a scene where Deku feels bad about it and almost wants to give it away.
right.
But there's a little bits of lazy storytelling. I thought the Fat Gum story wasn't very good. I thought the aping the whatchamacallit, the Choji running arc was a little bit lazy. But let's get to a rating. What would you give this arc? What would you say?
They're like 7.5.
I think it was a solid 8. I think it was a good solid 8. Maybe not necessarily the best, but I think it still had some strong moments. So let's go on to the nice little short arc, the extracurricular exam with Bakugo and Todoroki. What do you think of that little 2-episode arc?
Oh, the extracurricular exam.
When they're training the kids, when they gotta when they gotta get control of the kids.
Oh god, I forgot about that. That was a fun arc. I like that. It's like putting Bakugo in like a really questionable position. Like, these characters looked like they were terrible with kids, honestly. But then they somehow figured it out, like how to be themselves and still inspire these kids. Like, that was that was pretty cool actually. That arc, I really like that arc. That was actually that was one of my favorite little arcs.
It was definitely a nice little arc, and it was a nice little arc because it had like the dual storylines for Bakugo as well as a storyline for Endeavor. Because Endeavor asks All Might, like, I'm number one, but I don't feel like I'm number one. What am I doing wrong?
Yeah, and All Might's like, you have to do it your own way, right?
Yep.
I forget how he phrases it.
He says that, like, I just knew that's what I wanted to be. And then he basically says that, like, don't try to be me. You're going to be miserable. That's not what you are. Figure out how to be your own symbol. Figure out what that symbol is.
Yeah.
So, and even after that conversation, you can see him like soften, where he's a lot less hard edged. He says, "Oh, I'm proud of you, Todoroki." He's a lot less angry. And then there's the scene where the Wind guy with M Bison uniform comes in, and he's like, "Oh, you're completely different."
Yeah, and Bison, I forget why he hates Endeavor.
It was a really stupid reason. It was he hated him because he wanted his autograph when he was younger, and then Endeavor pushed him away, and he had like cold eyes.
Right. Yeah.
Which was not exactly the best reason, but sure, it served the purposes of what was needed for that arc. But yeah, this was a nice little fun little arc, and I definitely loved it. I love the dual arcs of Bakugo, understanding his limitations, and that he has that hard lesson where he talks to the kid and he says, if you're looking down on everyone, then you won't see what your own weaknesses are.
Well,
you won't understand what your own limitations are, which was really well nice, and it wasn't like the most well animated arc. It definitely felt like there was a little skipping, but overall, though, I definitely loved it and thought it was a great little transitional arc. And I especially, I think, because Bakugo is like such a shitty asshole, I feel like his lessons are a lot more interesting than when Deku learns something.
Yeah, like Bakugo gaining like some level of empathy,
some level of self-awareness and empathy.
Yeah, self-awareness and empathy is really powerful with his character, because he's just like so hot-headed and so competitive
and so always
angry. Yeah.
That's the sort of like definition of finding that limit of how do you make him, because Bakugo isn't stupid, unlike other like excessively angry characters. He's angry and obnoxious to a point, but he's not stupid, which is, I think, one of the reasons why he's a fan favorite character and why people, of course, enjoy him. So what would you rate these 2 episodes of this very tiny arc?
I give it 8.5.
I think that's good. I'd agree with that. I like the messaging of this arc, even if they skip.
Oh, so you like it better than the other arc, previous?
I think the character writing is a little bit stronger in this one, and I think I liked that those 2 elements.
Okay, that's cool.
So now let's get into the next big thing, the school festival. What did you think of the school festival arc?
It was a pretty fun small stakes arc. Like, after the whole Yakuza arc, it just felt like it's like some like big like super over the top like dramatic showdown between Deku and Yakuza guy, when it probably should have been Deku versus some other henchman besides the main Yakuza guy. Like, I think, how Luffy like had this huge rivalry with Dogtooth. Like, he wasn't ready for Big Mom.
So you like
So
that sense? You feel like you should have fought the sub commander of the Shi Hisakai, while Aizawa or one of the other teachers or pro heroes takes down the big boss man.
yeah, like why was Deku left with the guy, the main boss leader at the end? Like, why did the intern like come in and try and clean up the job? You
Well,
know?
one thing though I want to propose to you before we one little side tangent. A guy airs in the chat says, "Notice you get
Oh,
one."
I haven't seen. I've been able to see the chat.
It has not been super active, but I'm watching it all the time. Thank you, Hollow Man, for being there. And Ayers said, "Notice you get one perv moment of Mineta for a season." So here's my interesting thing. What do you think of the little purple rush guy? Just because he's like one of the most reviled and hated characters amongst the fandom, who absolutely despise him. But you know, he's a very well-worn trope, the perverted character trope. Do you hate Mineta?
Uh, he's kind of a skeevy guy, but I feel like you could still. There's still something you can do with his story.
He doesn't really have much of a story. His story is like, I have a shitty superpower, but I'm still in the hero school, and I just want to molest girls. That's his story.
Like, you almost feel like he could grow up to be like a Harvey Weinstein kind of character, but he, you know, I think he's a character that deserves a little bit of some kind of character growth to show that, you know, maybe you should maybe you should not be as like skeevy and pervy. You don't have to be as skeevy as pervy as that, you know, to you know, to get noticed by women or something.
Well, the interesting thing, I think he's like a very well worn. Many manga and anime, especially shonen anime, have the pervert character trope. It's a dime a dozen.
Um,
So I think the reason why he gets a lot of backlash is that like a lot of people love how like pure My Hero Academia is. It's like one of the most out of all shonen anime, it is the least anime bullshit in terms of
mhm.
like you know really awkward stuff that turns people off from anime, like obnoxious fan service moments, weird, creepy, you know, oh, I'm 1,000-year dragon, but I look like a 10-year-old girl, weird Japanese perverted stuff.
Okay. Yep.
And there's also very limited fan service. There's like really erotic character designs, but at the same time, there's not like most of the character designs are pretty tasteful. And at least they're fully clothed, so people can, you know, for people who want their eroticism, it's there. It's
I
just
mean, there's Bubble Girls where like literally the bottom half of her breasts are like kind of show at the.
mostly. There's a few character designs that like get rid of that like kind of like taste line. And I think people hate the fact that the seemingly purity of the My Hero Academia experience is ruined by like this little pervert thing who's just like, I'm all the worst things about anime. In the post Me Too era, I'm gonna go look at girls when they don't want me to. All the sort of stuff that used to be kind of like okay-ish in like the Porky's movie or American Pie, that now is kind of like, you know, the culture is re-examining and saying like, is this really okay? And that's why everyone hates Mineta.
So this is interesting because like I don't know necessarily if this is like this cultural movement, the Me Too movement is like necessarily getting that much worldwide traction. I know it's gotten a lot of like traction in the United States and like
Well, the
English speaking.
interesting thing is that, like, I mean, you're right in one sense that, like, you know, I remember there was like this minor controversy, like, you know, the other big three character of like, what you call it, the other big three, the girl,
Yeah,
the swirly
of
girl.
yeah, the one that shoots electricity or
Yep,
something.
yep, that's the one. So they were like complaining that her boobs were too big in the anime redesign, and there was like a little minor controversy over that. But at the same time, you know, none of that is going to reach to the point where like Horikoshi and his little hovel in Japan is going to have much editorial, or is going to listen or has to listen to it. His primary concern is appeasing the Japanese audience, so he
Yep.
doesn't give a shit. So in a way, you're right. But it's an interesting discussion that, like, you know, from a wider fan base, and the wider fan base of My Hero Academia worldwide is like, I hate Mineta. He's the worst. Stop getting rid of this horrible perverted character. This is terrible. Let's get rid of him.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, I don't know how much influence like the whole Me Too movement and cancel culture it has in Japan right now. That would be something I'm not quite aware of at the moment, but I feel like maybe it does make some waves. Considering like got it, Hirikoshi, right?
Or Horikoshi.
Horikoshi. He's getting a lot of influences from American comic books with My Hero Academia. Like, it's very much inspired on American stuff. And I've seen like little tours of his studio where he just like has all these like American like figurines and comics. Yeah, from all kinds of different comics, DC, Marvel, you know, American movies. Like, he's obsessed with American culture as well. So that would bring an interesting question, is like how much was he affected at all by, you know, American culture right now with, you know, Me Too movement and cancel culture. But I think he made the Mendetta character before that actually happened, like before.
Technically he would have existed before any of that sort of like came.
Yeah, so like it's a little hard to like backtread on that character completely now, even if he was influenced by that.
Well, he just sort of features him less. I mean, he's like very mild in terms of like the perverted character, but I just thought it was an interesting thing to run by you because there seems to be a special hatred towards him, and I think that's like culturally because of like people are like pushing back against the evil pervert trope or the evil perverted guy. But going back, so what did you love about the school festival?
The school festival, it was God, it's a very small stakes arc. It didn't need to have like a super fancy Goku versus Frieza kind of like epic battle. Like, the real epic battle was actually getting that little girl to smile for the first time. That was the main goal. That was the main goal of that arc. And Deku was fighting super hard for that girl's smile. And he had to beat the shit out of an old man to do it. So, like, it was a great little self-contained arc. And, like, I was pretty pleased with, like, how you know, Gentle and La Brava were presented as characters. Like, they played off each other pretty well, and they had pretty like believable, sincere motivations. And you could really empathize with them. Like, they were the villains like you could empathize with the most, I think, of the entire series so far.
So you definitely loved the gentle criminal. I love that like little French music that they played for him, and I loved his little theme. Yeah, I think they did a very good job with Gentle and La Brava. Yeah, I've talked about this in a video before, but I'll talk about it again. What I love about Gentle is that like he's super relatable. It's that we are more like Gentle than we are like Deku. We are not the main characters in anyone's story. We are the schlubby guys who fail to reach our dreams and fail miserably. but it is thanks to the power. But we try and dream harder. And Gentle's just a guy who just doesn't have talent. He failed multiple times in the hero course. He wanted to be a guy who's remembered in history, who's incredible. But chances are, it's like The Office.
Yes.
We like to think of ourselves as the gym. The smart guy who's like kind of handsome, who's going to get the Pam at the end of the day, who's going to get the secret crush. But chances are that's not going to happen. In reality, we're more like Dwight.
Sometimes, yes.
Gentle was just a guy who wanted to do his villainy in the lamest way. Because what was his thing? Oh, I want to steal food to let the world know that they're selling expired fluffy pudding at the store.
Yeah.
I just want to sneak into the school because it's really hard to show that, people are being too casual because I, the gentle criminal, snuck into UA.
Wow.
And I especially love his backstory where he just sort of sees his life passing along. He's just getting older, but nothing's getting any better for him. Nobody remembers him, and he's like, if I can't be a great hero, then I will be remembered as a villain.
Yeah, but not really even that serious of a villain. Just one that does small-time robberies and basically just for popularity's sake.
Like a terrible villain. He's as terrible of a villain as he was a hero. So the patheticness I absolutely love about Gentle, and I felt super relatable.
Yeah. Well,
and I think that was super relatable, and the fact that Deku is basically in this scenario, he's like the Donald Trump Jr., the rich kid in the block who's basically goes to the elite high school, goes to basically the My Hero Academia equivalent of Harvard or Hogwarts.
Yeah, he's the Harvard student beating the shit out of this old man.
He's the Harvard student who's
in the Harvard party.
No. He's the Harvard student who's beating the shit out of the community college student, or the DeVry student who's trying to sneak into the school party of Harvard.
Right.
You can't get in there, Ivy League student. You're just gonna have to take on. You're just gonna have to stay out because you're not worthy. And I especially love how the fight, once Lover uses her lover powers, it gets much more desperate and much more pathetic.
Yeah. I thought that was a nice touch to to have La Brava give Gentle that final little power up to try and beat Deku. Her power is basically the ace in the hole for Gentle, just for him to run away. But he instead just decides to put all his pride on the line to beat Deku. If there was anything that I would have wanted things to turn out differently with this arc, that's that I wish Gentle wasn't just beaten in the very first encounter with Deku. I think it would have been more satisfying if Gentle somehow outsmarted Deku with his experience or something like that. I don't know.
I don't know. I think it ended pretty perfectly, in a way, because Deku had his first horrible realization that as a hero, I'm just beating the downtrodden, and not every villain is a megalomaniacal, I want to steal the bank or beat up people or murder people. It's I just want to be a person who gets acknowledged or follows their dreams. And then, he did say Gentle was the hardest opponent he's ever fought because he felt bad for Gentle. And he faces a hard lesson that to ultimately be a better hero than All Might, that he's going to have to not just beat people down, but figure out a way to save them from themselves.
He can't beat people down. He's got to beat people up,
He's got to beat people up and uplift them somehow. Although, one brief little tangent, and then we'll get back to talking about the arc. But my good old longtime viewer, Horatio Poggi, asks, do you guys think All for One will be the final villain of the story, or maybe will it be Shigaraki?
I think it's Shigaraki for sure.
I will say this, like, I want it to be Shigaraki. I think it'll be really disappointing. Like, the dumbest thing that would make me lose a lot of respect for the series would be if, like, All for One was like, ah ha ha ha, I was just raising you, Shigaraki, so I could take control of your body. And then he takes control of Shigaraki's body at like the end, and then he's like the final boss.
Yeah, it'd almost be like it being Madara, Uchiha Madara being the final boss of Naruto, which, I mean, he wasn't, but it was still kind of a bad final boss for Naruto. I think Toby should have been the final boss.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think All for One would be a lot less interesting if he was just like the final super bad guy that has to be fought at the end. I like the better idea that like he's just like really getting off on the idea of like raising a successor.
Yeah,
will beat all Might and All Might's successor.
Because they have Shigaraki and Deku have parallel storylines right now, and I think towards the end of the series they're gonna converge and they're gonna clash in a sort of climactic way.
Yeah, Shigaraki is the Joker. Like if the whole story is, and that's one of the smarter things I think My Hero Academia has been doing over the course of its run. How it has the interlocking stories of the ultimate. I'm going to be the world's greatest hero, and then Shigaraki being raised as the ultimate villain.
Exactly.
And I think All for One, like being a final villain, would be really anticlimactic and ruin a lot of the series, and it would just be like feel like a big cop out.
And there's still the one question though, like, how are they going to resolve this? There's this really suspicious looking doctor or scientist dude. Is he going to play? He's got to play a major part in this series at some point, right?
Oh yeah. You're gonna. Which doctor are you talking about? The one who looks like Robotnik?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, obviously he plays a much bigger role much later on. You'll see him soon enough. Probably in the next season, not this season. But yeah, he becomes like a very, very big part. But back to the school festival. Did you get nostalgia for like doing school shit in Goucher? And did you get nostalgia for like going to like cons and shit and like all the little kids preparing stuff and then the dance number and all the wonderful planning for the school festival?
Yeah, I don't know if I could completely relate to anything that they were doing for the school festival because I've never, maybe like a school play school plays, or I guess I did like an staged improv thing and during a summer camp thing, but yeah, it was pretty fun. Like everyone was like getting into it, like, kind of like awkwardly at first. It's like, oh, I don't really know how to dance. So don't worry, I'll teach you. Like I'm pretty decent at dancing, and I'll whip you into shape. And then you shows people's other talents in the group. Like, oh, I'm really good with music. Oh, I'm really good at dancing. I'm really good at making a light show, sparkly shit happen in the sky.
And did you like good old Earphone Jack? Jiro, I think her name is, getting her big character moment to shine. That she's a rocking girl.
Yeah, she fucking sang the shit out of that in English too. So that was
an interesting touch. I think it's weird though when you have like a Japanese thing and then they like just have English lyrics and you're like, and it's not the English voice cast and you're like, why are you doing this? Or do you know that like you have like this big international audience and that like your idea of like rock music is it has to be in English? That was a really interesting touch.
Yeah, I like that a lot actually. That was pretty fun. Like, and I like the animation of that. Like I was getting into it as the performance was happening as well. You could really feel that moment when that the little girl, I think her name is Erin or something.
Ari.
Ari, when she's like, her trauma literally is like, you can actually see her trauma physically like dissipate, and she's just like smiling like something. So the power of rock music cured PTSD trauma.
That's all you need for PTSD, or you just need a great rock musical. That's the key.
And that's what Deku was fighting for the whole time. You realize like that towards the end of that story arc. So that was pretty fun, and that felt very satisfying at the end.
It was definitely like a big culmination of him like healing her heart, and I think they did a great job of like just selling that everyone was invested, and also setting up the low stakes, but it still felt like it was really good stakes in terms of like, yeah, Deku, you're gonna go do it. I can't wait to see you get everyone. Or no, the stakes were basically that like everyone's super invested in this school festival. They all need it. They all need a reprieve from the dark arcs and all the darkness going on in the media and society. So they just have this like fun school festival, and everyone's hard work will be, because the school festival will be shut down if Gentle's found out and his plan succeeds.
Yeah. So another thing I want to bring up, this is another kind of slight problem with this arc. Like, does it feel a bit weird to you, La Brava and Gentle's relationship? Like, doesn't that feel like kind of like some pedophile stuff going on?
I looked it up. She's supposed to be like in her 20s. She's supposed to be like a college student. Yeah, they're
supposed to be 20s.
Yeah.
Okay,
she's just then like a dwarf girl. Her other power is being a dwarf.
He's literally this old man next to this small, tiny girl who kind of looks like maybe barely into high school to me. Just like, it seems really odd. Like, she's really taking advantage of her. I mean, sorry, he's really taking advantage of her.
I think that's interesting that you should mention that, because you're right. It could have been a really creepy line, but because, like, as far as we can see, Gentle's like completely asexual, and he's not like creeping on her, even though this girl's like completely devoted. And I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find all kinds of really uncomfortable Rule 34 art.
Are they living together? Like, they're like in the same house, and she like tackle hugs him, and they're like laying down there on the floor like that. Like, doesn't that feel a little bit like weird to you? Like, does that happen all the time? Or like, how physical do they get? No, they don't get physical probably, but do they have romantic interest in each other? Like,
I'll say this much: you've seen about as much of Gentle and La Brava as I've seen. Like, literally, that's all you're going to see. They haven't appeared again in the series.
Okay, so apparently La Brava is 22 years old.
Yes. So yeah, let me go check it up on the story arc. I'll tell you right now. On the La Brava, My Hero wiki. I mean, you're right. It could have been, but I think the fact that like Gentle's like completely asexual.
It would have been nice if they, I guess, mentioned her age at some point. Like, otherwise, you could kind of go a little bit back and forth on like, oh, this is a little bit weird.
Yes, it says she's 20. She's 21. She's just 21. And okay. Remember, Gentle's not creeping on La Brava. He's completely like, ooh, you're my greatest fan, and you're helping me out, and you're my producer, and you're going to help me out with all this stuff. Isn't this great? Isn't this fantastic?
But it's also like, yes, she's the one smitten with him, but, at the same time, he shouldn't necessarily be like, taking advantage of that fact if she's like underage necessarily. He should be like more of a responsible adult, being like, I don't know if this is such a great idea. You're gonna get into some pretty serious trouble, and this is not you have to kind of let adults do adult things, kind of thing. You can't. I can't be bringing children into my house. Helping me with my computer problems.
Well, she's
And
not a child. She's just a dwarf. She's just a little dwarf girl. Dwarf girls aren't they allowed to like have affections too?
Yes, but yeah, you got to make it clear that she's 22, I guess.
I don't know. I think the fact that like
21.
Gentle was completely asexual to her, I think that like made it very platonic and very nice that he didn't like reciprocate those feelings in a sexual capacity. Sort of kept the charm and the wholesomeness of the arc.
Right. You almost could have felt like if Gentle wasn't so like gentlemanly, he wasn't so asexually gentlemanly towards her. Like there could have been a romantic relationship between the two, right?
I think so. I think Gentle's kind of like a really pathetic guy. So I think Gentle's like in a situation where he can take the best he can get.
Yeah, which is pretty good considering like she's so loyal to him, like, and such a she's a very strong ally to have, and willing to help him accomplish his dreams, and and everything.
Yeah, he's definitely probably getting a lot more out of the deal than she is. But I think the anime and the manga do a good job of like not making it creepy and making it fun and wholesome, and not feel like too horrible or skeezy. And it's a line, and it makes it even more sad where she's like desperately trying to like get them to lock in, and then you see the pro heroes coming in, and they feel very oppressive to her, as well as Gentle, as he's just like hugging her, and he's trying to like make the best out of it, and he basically gives up on his dreams, and he tells like he was a flunky of a hero student, and then Midoriya feels even worse about having oppressed him with his superpowers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think overall it was a really good story arc, and I guess those are like the only couple of things that really got to me with this
Wait.
story arc. But
I gotta interrupt you with a brief little comment from your pal, child father of Goro #2.
Yeah.
Gentle trained under Jonathan to become the ultimate gentleman of his time, Kappa. I thought you'd enjoy that.
That's
yeah,
true.
exactly. He's the ultimate gentlemanly. I'm sure that like gentleman is such a gentleman. The gentle criminal is such a gentleman that he probably in their little house or apartment they have like two separate beds where they like in the 1950s Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So overall, what would you rate this arc?
This arc was an 8.5 for me.
What? I thought it was a 9. I thought it was a really strong arc. I thought it was fun and playful, and they did a great job animating it.
Yeah, I probably should give it a 9. Yeah, and I enjoyed all the new tech gloves that Deku got.
And you like Deku's little power up. That felt like probably one of the most unique power ups. That he's going to be a smart boy, and like that was probably the smartest thing he did. I really do enjoy those gloves in the air shoot.
Yeah, like I enjoyed like how like coincidental that fight was. Like he just happened to. Oh, he was in a rush. He was in a hurry when he first got these gloves. So after training with All Might, with the air flicky gloves, he ran to the store to buy supplies, and it happened to be the same store next to Gentle's hideout. And they run into each other, and then Deku's like, "Hey, wait a minute, are you that guy? Are you planning to do something to my school?" He's like, "I cannot lie. Yes, I have to reveal my plan to you. And that's what bad villains do." Hey,
Yeah.
Brava, stop recording.
That is what terrible villains do. They do reveal, and then the Gentle is a terrible villain. So that is
And
perfectly.
I don't really mind that coincidental like run in at all. Really, it didn't feel like it didn't feel forced at all to me. Like it felt pretty it felt pretty good, like story progression wise.
It felt natural. Didn't feel too contrived.
Yeah, exactly.
It felt satisfying enough in terms of like getting.
Yeah,
Okay, that's fair, and it was a good excuse to show off his new power. And I like that upgrade a lot more than him going to 100%, just because it feels like more of Deku being like a smart boy. It's like, I figure out my limitations, but I found out a way so I can shoot the air blast without breaking my fingers. Oh my god! And the glove's actually pretty cool. How it like in the anime it like pops up and it has a more mechanical function.
yeah, yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see the power up in action, and the fight with Gentle. It felt like one of the more smarter fights that that's happened so far in My Hero Academia. Um,
And it had some nice emotional heft and nice emotional weight as Deku and Gentle are facing off against each other and their values collide. And
mhm.
Deku feels bad about it because he's basically beating up the poor kid who goes to DeVry.
Yeah, the community college.
The community college. I can't wait to see. I hope they bring them back in the future. I would love to see them again. I think they definitely deserve to make an appearance before the end of the series.
Oh, you mean Gentle and Labrava to make?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So
maybe
far,
they'll come back as heroes.
possibly. I mean, I hope they come back. It would be really cool to see them come back. But
I
as of
think they could they would. I think it would be good to see them have a little redemption uh, after trying to do some lame ass party prank. You know?
lame party, we'll have to wait and see later on if they like actually do get like a better redemption. Only
Hmm.
time will tell. So, any final thoughts on My Hero Academia as we bring the stream to a close of season
Uh,
4? How do you think it compared to season 3 and 2 and 1?
I, hmm. I guess I'm still excited to see Deku's progression throughout the series. Like I didn't expect him to progress quite like this. I think uh, Hirokoshi really made it threw us a curveball, like in terms of how he would progress as a hero. I never thought like I thought he would just be like smashing kind of like All Might and like with his fists, and then when he destroyed his arms, like actually getting permanent damage instead of like bandage heals everything, kind of logic. It's like, oh shit, these are actually permanent. It's like more and more permanent damage. I can't heal you with bandages anymore, like One Piece bandages. Um, so I like that a lot, and that's one of the main reasons, one of the big reasons why I I like this series so much. So I'm looking forward to more Deku story arcs and lines.
So, if you had to rank the seasons, what would you like? I don't know. It's a little unfair because like this season still has 2 more episodes, and they're going to be pretty big episodes. I think they're like some of the animation they've been scrimping on are all saved to this moment. I think it's going to be pretty epic when we finally get to see good old Hawks and Endeavor. But so, if you had to rank all 4 seasons, where would you put them at?
Which one was the third season again? That's with
Third season is the forest training, provisional license exam, and the big fight against All for One.
all. I think the first season is still the strongest season.
Really? Because I think the first season is kind of like basic bitch entry level arc stuff. But anyway, okay. So first season's number one. What's your second favorite one?
The second favorite one. Second season.
Okay.
And then I think I like the fourth season better than the third season.
Really? Even though the third season has the big Hokage fight between All Might and
Yeah, I think so. Because I think this Gentile arc was really successful compared to that Hokage fight, which it's kind of weird, isn't it? It's kind of weird. You almost feel like that giant Hokage fight between One for All and All for One would have been.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised that doesn't that's not like higher for you.
I'm surprised too. Maybe because I didn't quite have the surprise factor. Maybe because it was a little bit spoiled to me before.
Do you think you would have really liked it much better if you didn't know it was coming?
Maybe. Like I knew beforehand, like it was One for All was like snapshots from the manga. Like One for All was losing his powers, and he was going to do his final blast of power against All for One. So yeah, that did steal a lot of the climax, I guess, for me. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
It's an interesting statement. But yeah, it's interesting to hear how you rank all the seasons. But so overall, you still enjoy My Hero Academia, or do you feel like you've cooled on it as it's the shonen sensation, and now people are starting to flock a little bit towards Demon Slayer?
It's definitely still got some gas. Like they need to do something about these like Kurashima story arcs though. Like they can't have this bullshit character like do Metapod Harden all the time, you know? It's just not gonna be a fun experience to to see that.
Well, here's a question: which 1A classroom student would you like to see much better than like someone like Kurashima get the spotlight?
Tape Guy, Duct Tape Guy, and Invisible Girl. Those are the main two that I can think of.
Really? Oh.
Maybe Tail Guy.
Why do you like Tail Guy so much?
Tail Guy, his power is so dumb. Like, I would love to see Hirokoshi try and write his way out of, like, making this character at all any way interesting. Like, that'd be fun to see Hirokoshi squirm through trying to write
give the Tail Guy a cool badass moment. Well,
yeah.
What about more fan favorites? Bird Hawk Guy, Pink Monster Girl, and
Pink Monster Girl?
Yeah, the Pink Monster Girl. She spits acid.
Oh, I thought you said Pig Monster Girl.
No,
yes.
Pink Monster Girl.
Yeah, like she's got a strong power, and also Dark Bird Kid also has a strong power, but I want to see, like, yes, and I think they could hold their own in a actually cool, interesting fight. But I want to see you know,
Oh,
I think there's some really nice writing decisions, nice little story arcs you can make out of the three characters I mentioned.
well, some guy actually put an interesting quote. Mr. Ayers01 in the comments said, "Is it safe to say Kuroshima is like Rock Lee of MHA?" So here's a big question for you. In some ways, you could argue that he's kind of like the Rock Lee, that like he's hard grit and determination. What do you like? Why do you like Rock Lee more than the Mr. Hardening guy?
Deku is more like Rock Lee than Kurashima. Uh, Rock Lee doesn't have any talents except in physical prowess, like physical taijutsu. That's it. He doesn't have any talents in anything else, like no magical powers, no genjutsu, nothing. So he focused all his energy on that one thing. And that's kind of like what Deku has gone through in a way. And I think like because Kurashima, yes, he is kind of like a one trick pony, but like you don't really see like how do I like you don't see very creative uses with his hardening ability, like as you do with like Rock Lee with his taijutsu. Like because Rock Lee has developed so much speed and everything, he can counter a lot of jujitsu. He knows not to stare directly into Uchiha clan's eyes uh, to counter Sasuke. Like even if Sasuke can read his movements, like he knows he has to develop a certain amount of speed in order to beat Sasuke in a one-on-one fight. So if he's able to outspeed him through all the physical training he's done, like uh, he knows he has at least some chance against uh, someone with a superior bloodline and abilities, uh, jujitsu abilities and everything.
But you feel like Rock Lee does that. Kurishima doesn't have any of that. He just has like I feel sad and a little bit depressed, and I feel like a little bit bad about myself. Meh. And you feel like that's not quite good enough.
Yeah, like you don't see people like questioning Kurashima's power. Like, dude, your power is just Metapod. Like, that's not really good hero material. Like, what can you do with that? Like,
Better than Tail Guy.
it's practically useless. You just stand there and get hard, really, really hard, and it just doesn't. It's not going to protect enough people or something. But just if you saw Kurashima maybe use his power like in more creative ways, like maybe he jumps off the roof of a building and then gets hard. If he had maybe a more disadvantage to his ability, like, oh, I move like 50% slower when I'm hard. So I have to really make a concerted effort to like, uh, you know, control my hardening ability, let go of my hardening ability at certain moments to gain certain momentum, and then harden again to make sure it's a rock solid punch, you know, something like that. I don't know.
You want some sort of like mechanical complexity that makes it more interesting to read or watch his ability versus like, I just get really hard and I hit things or things hit me, which is basically
Yeah,
the extent of what most of his fights or experiences have been so far.
yeah, and it's just very depressing to see like I don't understand how people can get hype over over that.
People just like the enthusiasm that he's like the manly guy who believes in manly sturdiness and enthusiasm. Rah, I'm a tough boy, and so for some people that's enough. That's enough to.
There's another character like that in the manga, Dr. Stone. I forget what his name is again. And endurance guy.
Oh, Taiju.
Taiju, yeah, Taiju. Just endless endurance. Like that's basically what Kurashima is.
Yeah, and Taiju's a pretty boring character. I freaking hate Taiju. All right, so I think that finishes our good old thoughts on season 4 of My Hero Academia, the Shonen King right now, outside of One Piece, the one that's like carrying the torch. I think we'll be back. We'll have some other. I'm working on getting some other guests for some future Rambling Ranting Review Hour streams. We'll see what turns up for those. But Goro, you got some homework. You got to go read Burn the Witch.
No, I can't bring myself that low right now. It's really been 2 weeks in quarantine, so
you've got
there's still more things to do in my life.
Well, you've got more fun homework. You should read Dr. Stone.
Oh yeah, I could catch up with Dr. Stone.
Catch up on Dr. Stone. You know, we owe it to all the loyal Dr. Stoners who we failed while the series gained popularity thanks to the anime. So
we were the first ones to make videos on Dr. Stone. The very first ones. We knew it was cool before it was cool.
Darn right. So you need to go get on that. You got all the time in the world to catch up on Dr. Stone, you goddamn Dr. Stoner.
Wow. I know.
So, Burn the Witch is waiting for you.
You gotta do something more to convince me to read that. I can't do it right now.
All right, Dr. Stone first, and then then I'll see what I can do to try and force you.
Maybe the anime. You just skip to the anime once it comes out.
One, the anime is no. One, the anime isn't even out, and 2, it's going to be terrible because there's no even manga based on it, so it's basically going to be a filler series with no lore.
That's going to be more entertaining than the manga, though, I think.
Maybe. All right. So,
but we definitely are going to watch the Bleach thing, right?
Oh yeah. I'll definitely watch it. I'll watch that.
I'm
morbidly curious.
We're going to review that for sure. I feel.
Yeah, we'll definitely cover the 1,000-Year Blood War because I have a lot of conflicted. Oh no, I'm still. Oh no, I lost your connection. Goro, come back to me. You have to wave bye to the people. There you go. Yeah. I saw you falter. So, all right. So let's say goodbye. Thanks for hanging out with us to talk about My Hero Academia Season 4 and Goro's indifference to the Hisekai and whatchamacallit. We'll be back on Friday with some other stream, hopefully. Maybe Goro will finish up his homework and we can talk about Dr. Stone. Or maybe we'll do something else. But thank you guys for hanging out with us, and thanks for sticking around for another hour of the Rambling Ranting Review Hour. And stay safe, and remember, lobsters and antennas, but don't you grab it.